Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm just honored to be here. It was a setup when Sister Hinton asked me to come. She told me to come read the scripture, but I never been to a Good Friday service before. So, Pastor, I want to tell you this is another one of my firsts because I've never been to a Thanksgiving service before, too. So, you guys have got a lot of firsts. So, I'm excited. But it's only befitting that it happened because I happen to be here and I'm actually speaking after my mentor over there. And I just want to tell my story, how it relates to this scripture, how I got it. Okay. The last time that I spoke before you guys was Sunday, and Elder Binion at my grandfather's funeral, he had prophesied that I would be preaching because my great-grandfather used to be a preacher on my mother's side. And then my grandfather on my dad's side used to be a preacher, and I didn't know either one of them before. I met my grandfather one time on my dad's side, but never my great-grandfather. And for him to say that, and then my family came and I just saw it come to fruition, what he spoke. So that's how I know it was all set up, but it's even deeper than that. Because from me to be preaching, especially from my family, all the men in my family were drug dealers, gangbangers, womanizers. Only prayer I knew was, "Thank you for my food, Jesus wept." That was it. And then it just so happened when I started my job at AT&T, this guy started at the same time, and I'm hanging with the younger people, and he always talking to me, and I'm like, why is this old guy always talking to me? He invited me to church all the time, and he kept saying, "You need Jesus." I heard of Jesus, but I didn't know what he meant to know Jesus. It was totally different, so he kept inviting me to go to church. And so he kept, even though I would shun him away every time he tried to talk to me, he just consistently kept talking to me and kept talking to me. Then finally, when I went through something, he said, "I told you, you need Jesus." So, went to church, started going to church, and then I got saved. Now, the preacher that was the church I went to, he was going through some things where everything wasn't right, so that turned me away. But it was the man, because he's still a man, and I didn't realize that didn't have nothing to do with God. So at that time, I started, I went to school, started trying to get myself to better, to do the things, because I got to tell you, if you look at the outside, it was okay. On the outside, my exterior, everything was good. I was in shape and everything, but the inside was all tore up. And that's what made me think, this scripture, it said I was that vinegar. Elder Binion, you drink some water, but if you put some vinegar, it don't even have to be that much. It's not a good taste. And all the time he was dealing with me, he's drinking that vinegar. He was drinking that vinegar because he kept striving for me because I'm still trying to do it my way, but he still stayed on me. "Look, you need to get back in here. I don't know what you're doing, but you need to get back in here." And he was still drinking that vinegar. And if you guys knew me before, oh, you wouldn't even believe the same person. You wouldn't even visualizing me because I had hair down here, big clothes, everything. I was trying to live that life that my uncles and everybody, because they said what I was doing before, "You're too soft. You too soft. You got to be in here." You couldn't even go by my name, Raymond. I didn't even go by. They called me Wayne. They wouldn't. When I graduated and family came, they was like, "Who is him? I didn't hear your name called. That's your name?" They didn't even know my name. Isn't that crazy? Your own family didn't want one because you couldn't go by your name in the neighborhoods that would have. They couldn't have that regular name. It was Wayne. You couldn't call me Raymond. It was, and I knew it was a whole different type of character based on what name you called me. I knew where I knew you from. But he knew me. He knew my family called me Wayne too, and he still kept drinking that vinegar. He still kept drinking that vinegar, and so then how I knew when Deacon Holliverse was singing that song, "You don't know how it is to be in the arms of Jesus." That song, that's where you feel protected, and that's where I knew everything that I had, my life was over when I got into an accident in my motorcycle, and my face hit that concrete. I knew it was over. I already knew my life was over, but I felt somebody pick me up. And then that's when I knew I can't keep living this life this way because that life is gone. Everything that I knew before was gone. It's just a gift just to still be here. So it is an honor and a pleasure to be speaking to you this now. And I knew I got back to my mentor and I said, "Look, I can't keep playing with this. What I got to do to get right with Jesus?" And he said, you got to learn more about him. You got to get into this men. You got to learn, you know how to be a worldly man, but you need to learn how to be a godly man. And so that's when I started going to the classes for men of valor and excellence to learn more about him. And that still wasn't enough, though. I'm going through the classes, but you still keep butting your head. And then I'm still butting my head, and he introduced me to a wife. I got a wife now, and I'm still trying to figure it out, but I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm still trying to work it together, still trying to get it right, and she older than me too, so she feels she know everything already, so we still trying to get it right. Then he starts his own church. And he said, man, have you been praying? I said, been praying. He said, yeah, but have you been praying in the spirit? It's one thing to try to do it, but you're going to need some power. You can't do it without any power. And without that power, you can't make the change. And I remember it made me go back to when he first kept asking me to go to church. You need to go to church. I keep saying, I ain't right. And he said, who takes a bath to take a bath? You got to come, because that's the only way change can happen is if you get in contact with Jesus. Only he can change you. You keep trying to do it on your own, it's not going to be good enough. But until you allow him in to your heart, then that's when he can start getting in those rooms that we close off, that we don't let nobody into, to come in there and start making those changes, because only he can change. We can't do it by ourselves. So if you try to do it by yourself, that's like everything we doing is in vain, because you're trying to say by the works that you did. But it ain't by the works. So then Sister Hinton told me to read, it is finished. So I was reading, and so I want to go to that scripture, chapter John, verse 19 and 30. It said, when Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, that nastiness, all that ugly stuff that you did in your life, everything, the stuff you did, some of the stuff we can't mention, some of the stuff that we should be in jail for, some of the stuff we should be under that grave for, stuff we did, that's that vinegar that he was talking about. Okay, he said it is finished. But the key thing, before he bowed his head, he gave up the ghost. So the whole time, even though he felt like his father forsaken him, the power was still there the whole time. So they didn't kill him. He gave it up. He released the ghost. So that was the thing when he said it is finished. So all the stuff that you worry about, all that past stuff that you get, it doesn't matter if you didn't know your parents before. It's what God has made in you. He made you uniquely perfect in the way that he created you. He chose you just how you are. He know all the things that's wrong with you. He know all the mistakes that's in you. He know about your bad attitude. But if you can just let him in and change the things, because it's already been done. You have already been forgiven. He already paid the price. It is